Hey everyone, today I want to talk about the stiff leg deadlift and the Romanian deadlift. What's the difference? Is there a difference? Which one's better? And when do I program these into my routine and into my online clients' routine? Sometimes I'll program the stiff leg deadlift into one of my online clients' programs. They'll send me video and I'll say, looks pretty good, but that's actually a Romanian deadlift. And other times I'll program the Romanian deadlift. They'll send me video and I'll say, looks pretty good, but that's actually a stiff leg deadlift. So let's cover the nuances of each movement. The stiff leg deadlift is pretty self-explanatory. It's a deadlift performed with stiff legs.
Wow!
But what about the Romanian deadlift? Where did that name come from? It was actually invented hundreds of years ago by a young boy named Roman who loved to pick up rocks. But every time he would drop the rock, his mom would come outside and yell, "Roman, quit dropping them rocks!" Roman refused to quit training, so he had to think of a better way. And after some thought, he decided to start his rock pickups from the top, never actually setting the rock on the ground. And the Romanian deadlift was born. The main difference between these two movements is the starting position. The stiff leg deadlift starts and ends on the floor just like a standard deadlift. The weight is picked up from a dead stop. The Romanian deadlift starts at the top or the lockout position. The weight never actually touches the ground until you're finished with the set. In my opinion, when talking about technique, one of the most important pieces of the stiff leg deadlift and the Romanian deadlift is the position of the knees. I have said in a previous video that at the start of a normal conventional deadlift, the knees should be against the insides of the arms. The front of the knees should be flush with the front of the arms. This is something that my coach has observed, and it's something that I've really been paying attention to with my own deadlift and with my clients' deadlifts. If the knees are behind the arms, your hips are probably too high. If your knees are traveling in front of your arms, your hips are probably too low. I've found that this is the case for most people. I'm sure that there's an exception out there, but to keep things simple, let's say that for the conventional deadlift, the front of your knees should be flush with the front of your arms at the start. Now, at the start of a stiff leg deadlift, the knees should be behind the arms. This puts your hips higher, shins closer to vertical, and legs straighter or stiffer when compared to a conventional deadlift. I like to think about performing the 5-step deadlift setup without the third step of bringing my shins to the bar. So find your stance, bar near midfoot, take your grip right outside of your legs. Without dropping your hips and without bringing your shins forward, squeeze your chest out and flatten your back. Pull. The stiff leg deadlift puts you at a mechanical disadvantage. Your legs are straighter, the angle of your knee is greater, therefore you can't use as much leg drive as you can with a conventional deadlift. This is why most people stiff leg deadlift less weight than they deadlift. So what's the point of putting yourself at a mechanical disadvantage? It's the same reason you might do a pause squat, a pause deadlift, a deficit deadlift, close grip bench, tempo work. Changing leverages, limiting speed, removing the stretch reflex are all ways of putting yourself at a disadvantage. The utility of variations and assistance exercises is beyond the scope of this video. I would suggest checking out my other video about assistance exercises. So the stiff leg deadlift is a deadlift with stiff legs. Your legs do not need to be completely straight. Your hips should be higher than a conventional deadlift starting position. Your shins should be more vertical, and the bar should not be touching your shins at the start. Now the Romanian deadlift can start from one of two positions. You can just pick the weight up off the floor like a normal deadlift, or you can take it out of the squat rack. I like to take the same stance width and toe angle as my deadlift. While standing tall, brace your back and abs and start the movement by pushing your hips back and letting the barbell slide down your thighs. Once the barbell passes your knees, continue reaching down to about mid-shin. Without pausing at the bottom, stand back up by dragging the barbell up your legs. If you feel your back starting to excessively round over as you reach the bottom, you might be reaching a little bit too far, in which case I would just suggest moving the turnaround point higher, like just below the knees. Or you might just be doing a poor job of holding your back tight from the start. Just like the stiff leg deadlift, it's important to note that my knees are staying behind my arms at the bottom. If I freeze frame the bottom of this Romanian deadlift, it looks exactly like a stiff leg deadlift. Hips high, shoulders over the bar, shins vertical, and knees behind my arms. Another obvious difference between the stiff leg deadlift and the Romanian deadlift is the eccentric portion included in the Romanian deadlift and not included in the stiff leg deadlift. The stiff leg deadlift is really just a pull from the floor and then a controlled drop from the top. The Romanian deadlift uses this eccentric or loading portion to create a stretch reflex at the bottom. Lengthen, contract. You might notice that I'm wearing flat wrestling shoes for my stiff leg deadlifts and a heeled squat shoe for the Romanian deadlifts. This is because the heeled squat shoe allows me to activate 100% of my hamstring's contractile potential. I'm just kidding. I usually wear my heeled squat shoes for Romanian deadlifts because it puts me at a slight deficit against the bar by making me taller, which means I can go about an inch lower without hitting the floor with the plates. But honestly, I'll usually just wear whatever shoes that I'm wearing beforehand because I don't want to change my shoes. Now let's answer the question, which movement is better, stiff leg deadlifts or Romanian deadlifts? Better for what? I get asked these types of questions all the time. Which is better, the squat or the deadlift? Better for what? I think that the stiff leg deadlift and the Romanian deadlift are both great exercises that I include in my routine and my online clients' routine. With that said, I'll explain why I think the stiff leg deadlift is better than the Romanian deadlift. What? Wait, what? When programming, I like to focus on the squat, the bench press, and the deadlift. Those are my favorite. My training revolves around those movements, so almost everything included in my program goes towards improving the squat, bench, and deadlift, at least for right now. So let's put these bad boys up here. Squat, bench, and deadlift. These be my main movements, and because we're not talking about the bench press or the squat, let's get rid of them. So I've got my main movement here, and I usually have a secondary movement and a tertiary movement. That means third. So of these two, the Romanian deadlift and the stiff leg deadlift, which one do you think most represents the main movement or the deadlift? Which one looks most similar to the deadlift, and which one allows me to handle a weight that's pretty close to the deadlift? If you picked the Romanian deadlift, congratulations, you are wrong. I would say that the stiff leg deadlift looks and feels more like a conventional deadlift than the Romanian deadlift does for me. And for that reason, the stiff leg deadlift is usually my supplemental deadlift 1. And the Romanian deadlift is usually listed as a supplemental deadlift 2. I've programmed singles for the stiff leg deadlift, never for the Romanian deadlift. And in general, the stiff leg deadlift is usually done with a little bit lower reps and heavier weight when compared to the Romanian deadlift. If I have a client who is only deadlifting once per week and I want to slowly work them up to deadlifting twice per week, I might add in some Romanian deadlifts on their second pulling day. Again, the weight of a Romanian deadlift is generally lighter than any other deadlift variation. So the overall jump in stress from a programming standpoint is not that much. Over time, once they get used to this, I might remove the Romanian deadlifts and add in some stiff leg deadlifts. Or if I just want to add in more pulling volume to a program for any client, I might just slap on some Romanian deadlifts later on in the week. I like to think of the deadlift as a fat, juicy ribeye. The stiff leg deadlift is the loaded baked potato, and the Romanian deadlift is a fresh garden salad. That's it. Thanks for watching. New Untamed Strength t-shirts on the website, and always remember, tread on time. Yeah.